What's up guys? Welcome to a new series. This is a One Piece one. What if I transmigrated as Smoker in One Piece? Trained by GARP, One Piece is one of, if not the best stories ever told, with many fascinating and diverse characters and many underlying themes and ideologies constantly clashing. In the midst of all this, one character is often overlooked, his potential not fully, according to me, explored. White Hunter Smoker is a complex character. He's a man of justice, but he's also willing to bend the rules if it means getting the job done. He's a powerful ally, but he can also be a dangerous enemy. His sense of justice marches the likes of Luffy, and he has the will to march it. So, let's explore his character in more detail in this series. But before we dive in, support me by giving the video a thumbs up, subscribing, hitting the notification bell, and sharing it with your friends. I'm the Sensei signing in. Hey, Pirate King, where did you hide all the treasure you found? Dream. While we are asleep, we live within the imaginary world created based on our memories and experiences. It is once we've woken up that we perceive it as a dream. Is it in the grand line you got it? Didn't you that legendary treasure One Piece? However, what if you don't wake up? What if your dream is the reality? And what you believe to be real all this time was a dream instead? Wahaha, my treasure. Don't speak without the permission. I found myself standing in the middle of the crowd, dumbfounded, as one man with long black hair to cover his facial appearance grinned in front of the executioner's blades. Gold D. Roger, the king of the pirates. Yes, I did recognize him. He was the legendary figure within the manga named One Piece, one of the most phenomenal stories that has ever been unveiled in the reality. If you want it, you can have it. Hold on, reality. Find it. I left everything this world has to offer there. Then came an abrupt execution by the scared executioners. The king of pirates met his end in the Loguetown in front of my eyes. The crowd uproared in excitement. Without a doubt, Gold D. Roger's will has been passed on to the next generation already, marking the beginning to the great age of the pirates, I thought as I slapped myself on the cheek. It stung, and yet I didn't wake up. Was it that I transmigrated? Or was it that I belonged within this world from the start and somehow, just somehow, dreamed of what may happen in the future here? And hold on, who am I? As people around were rushing in and out of excitement, I stood here, frozen, facing an identity crisis. Then, I was knocked down all of a sudden by one huge man, who didn't seem to have seen me standing. Once again, another jolt of pain. Without a doubt, I wasn't dreaming. Oh, I am sorry. The man leaned down and lifted me back up with his huge hand. Hold on, don't we know each other? Your name was, hold on, and how come I can understand what they are saying? I couldn't follow just what was happening around me. What is reality? Who am I? This can't be a dream, right? What am I supposed to do? Smoker. That's right, Smoker. That was your name, wasn't it? I found my eyes widening upon hearing the name Smoker. I raised my hands up and touched my hair, feeling the spiky rough texture. Sir, is my hair white? The man raised an eyebrow, but nodded nonetheless. Yes, you indeed are. The man who is called White Hunter by many, known to have eaten smoke fruit. A renowned marine with the rank of a captain or vice admiral in the manga. One who has, unfortunately, lost most of his battles. Smoker. That is me, it seemed. Loguetown, the island located in the East Blue, and is known to be close to the Red Line. Smoker was born in Grand Line. Yet, here he is right now, in the East Blue at the age of 12. How come? A rash boy he truly was, gaining a small boat for himself and impulsively sailing out, only to be consumed by the wild sea a day later. It was a miracle that he survived, or was he that he was inherently tough, blessed with a strong body and will? By the time he woke up, no, he didn't wake up. I thought he died from drowning, and my supposed soul replaced his, if I were to follow the explanations regarding transmigration, which was given in many fanfictions that I've gone through. But here I was. When I woke up, I began vomiting out a huge volume of seawater, rendering me to believe that I was dreaming. Walking, and somehow surviving throughout a few days without any food or water, made my belief that I was dreaming even further. But now, this was the reality. I realized this truth after having my first meal in this place once, given by one huge man who previously knocked me out during Gold D. Roger's execution. And what am I supposed to do now? I pondered with depression, still unable to believe that I have transmigrated. Boy, the man who sat on a table adjacent to me, with a mountain of food covering his face from me, said while munching, "What's your plan from now on?" With due respect, sir, I sighed and answered truthfully, I've got no idea what to do. Forget plan, how am I supposed to survive another day like this? Upon hearing me, the man raised his head up and peeked at me from behind the food mountain. His eyes, they seemed to be gleaming dangerously. Why don't you come with me then? The man said as he threw a donut into his mouth. I know a place that gives you a place to sleep, eat, and survive, as well as make you strong. That's hella suspicious, I thought as I looked at the man with squinted eyes. But you know what? I wasn't in a position to think that far. Death, no matter what situation I lied within, was a scary thing to consider. Additionally, I've now come to think that perhaps transmigration wasn't necessarily a bad thing. I was living in what was considered as dreams of many Otakus. I wanted to give my shot here. What kind of oasis is that even? I exclaimed while chewing on a piece of bread. The man then made a smile. Marine. The canon route. But alas, joining the Marine seemed to be the best possible option for me at the current moment. Are you a Marine as well, sir? You got that right. The huge man puffed his chest up. I am the Marine captain, dispatched all the way from the Marineford in order to monitor any suspicious activity during Gold Roger's execution. We continued chatting, and the food on the table eventually disappeared into our stomachs. Satisfied and feeling joy for the first time in this world, I slapped my fat stomach and grinned. Thanks for the meal, Captain. Huh? What do you mean? The Marine captain then made a frown. I thought you are paying. He then took in a deep breath before shouting, Smoker. I froze as I looked at the man with disbelief, causing the man to burst out in laughter. Vahaha. I was joking, kiddo. Placing the bill down on the table, the Marine captain motioned at me. Come on, I'll get you enlisted. And from now on, call me Captain Merlin. You got that? I nodded slowly. Sure. 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 1. Upon the instructor's call, all the Marine trainees bent their arms in the push-up position, 2, 2, before raising them back up after the word 2 being spoken out of instructor. The trainees were expressing pain and exhaustion. Their frail arms shook, threatening to collapse at any moment. Their sweat poured over the training ground like rain, and their attires were drenched beyond belief. And yet, in the middle of this sweaty training session, I found my state drastically better than the other trainees, although my arms were just as thin as them, and my body, which puberty hasn't hit yet, was smaller than the most. Halt! You may rest. And after who knows how long passed, the instructor finally called upon checking the time through his watch. With groans here and there, all trainees simultaneously fell on the ground, huffing and wheezing intensely. I too was one of them, but with enough strength to quickly raise my body back up. Smoker was Smoker indeed. He, from the start, was different than those of the cannon fodders, who letting out a light breath. I gazed at the view of the lively Loguetown as if the execution of Gold Roger was forgotten. 2 months already passed by since my transmigration, but here I am, still unable to believe that I am in the world of One Piece. After Captain Merlin had me enlisted, I was placed with these fellow peers in this training school. Among us, the talented trainees will be sent to the headquarters, Marineford, and be groomed as an officer. Marine, in terms of system, followed the ideal of meritocracy, although not completely, I thought as I shifted my gaze to the side, where a huge and burly trainee, who didn't seem to be as exhausted as the others, similar to me, those whose parents are Marines themselves, have a head start. And additionally, the fellows whose parents are quite well known. I turned my gaze to the frail-looking trainee, whose arms were crossed, and his face was in a visible frown during the whole training session, having refused to conduct the training, causing nothing but a trouble, yet due to the statuses of that guy's parents, the instructors are unable to make fault out of his troubling actions. As to why the parents of so-called high statuses will send their children here, I presume that it was to knock the arrogance out of their children, although it didn't seem to be working. However, above all, the problem lies in the fact that their eyes, whether the ones who had a head start or the ones from a noteworthy background, they currently were looking at me with envy and amazement. The fact that the frail boy of no known background was running as the #1 trainee of this school was obviously getting on their nerves. Teens tend to be immature, acting out of impulses. The lack of rationality leads to an action based on one's instinct and selfishness. I should be prepared for whatever may be coming in the future. With a grimace, I leaned down and grabbed a towel that lay beneath me, before hanging it around my shoulder and walking away, leaving the other trainees by themselves. During the evening, the meal is served. Afterward, an hour of free time is given, although limited within this Marine training facility. But in this free hour, there isn't much to do, considering that after this free time comes the 8-hour-long sleep, thanks to the voice of the Vice Admiral Monkey D. GARP. The trainees usually go to sleep early for an extra bit of rest. In other words, this is the time when I can enjoy solitude. During this hour, I usually go up to the top floor of the building, and view the starry night which was considered rare in my previous world. And the stars here are different, I muttered to myself while stargazing. Big Dipper, Sirius, and other constellations. I cannot find them no matter how many times I observe. Do you find me strange, that I've adjusted to this life too well? Do you consider me numb, with there being no sense of loneliness and depression within me, but optimism instead? Truthfully, I don't have an answer for this. Perhaps whoever transmigrated me did something within me, so that I won't face implications regarding those types of concerns. Creak then, the doorway that leads to the inside of the building opened, jolting me awake from my moment of stargazing. As I expected, from within, 3 burly teens revealed themselves, walking at me with dark expressions on their faces. You are here again, Smoker. Without turning around, I spoke, you guys again. Well, the one in the middle asked, have you made your answer? I groaned in annoyance, facepalming as I did so. There are way too many Holmepos here, for Nicker's sake. Turning around, I faced 3 teens who were looking at me with an annoyance of their own, while pocketing their hands within their pockets. If not, I will say it once again, for the final time. The one in the middle held his huge hand out at me, join Lloyd's line. He promised us the title of a Marine officer, along with a place on his ship in the future. Considering the fact that his father is none other than a Commodore, this is worth the deal. This dude's name is Bratty. He, along with his 2 friends, are whom I call brain-dead jockeys. They showcase excellent performances during physical training, while screwing up every other things. I've already noted that they would serve as the great cannon fodders. Come on, Bratty said impatiently, leaning down at me. He said that this is the last time. Don't make him angry. Look, I said with a deadpan. Do you think being a Marine is a joke? Is it children's play to you guys? Hey, the guy on Bratty's left, Sally, huffed and puffed angrily at me. What did you just say? Akin to an ox, his nostrils expanded and retracted. Oh, I just cited a booger. Oops, too much information. I raised my hands up in a confusion. What did I say to anger you? Then, I, by reflex, took a step back to dodge an impulsive punch from the guy on Bratty's right. Donnie. Really? I ducked just in time for Bratty and Sally to punch each other's fists, causing them to cry in pain. Lloyd told us to. Oh, Bratty spoke while holding his bruised knuckle. Kill you if you don't accept his offer this time around. Kill. I was flabbergasted. What is he? A pirate? Bending my torso to the left, I dodged Donnie's right fist, which ended up slamming onto the door that was right behind me. Ah, my hand, Donnie screamed while rolling on the ground, with his right hand now swollen to a comical degree. Donnie, Bratty shouted with widened eyes, before directing his anger at me. Smoker. Lowering his body so that his head was pointed at me, Bratty charged at me like a bull. However, right before his head collided on my chest, I sidestepped casually, causing Bratty's head to slam onto Sally, who was standing back up wobbly. Thud, knocking Sally unconscious. Sally, Bratty cried while falling to his knees in a panic. Standing next to the door, I sweat dropped. Yeah, I'm out of here. Grabbing the doorknob, I twisted it and opened the door, only to see a pink-haired girl standing behind it with widened eyes. Of course, she was none other than Hina, known as Smoker's colleague in the cannon. A pretty fellow she was, and along with the fact that there were barely any females in this training facility, Hina was being dashed here and there by the smelly boys, only for her to reject their confessions with cold words. Currently, she was standing in front of me, with her widened eyes headed at the scene behind me, at 3 jockeys. Hi, I said awkwardly before turning around to see 3 jockeys. Don't mind them. They just had a fight among themselves. As if Hina is going to believe that, Hina said coldly, causing me to sigh, for I expected her to react like this. I know that it looks as if I am in the wrong right when you just came, but it isn't. My hand. I was interrupted by Bratty's sudden cry, causing Hina's eyes on me to become colder. Hina is reporting this to the instructors. Hina looked at me with a frown. These unnecessary beatdowns that you've given to those 3 go against Marine's ideal of justice. I'm telling you, I didn't punch them even once. I raised my hands up to express my innocence, but much to my chagrin, it was to no avail. And on the next day, I was labeled as the problem kid, with the news having been spread across the entirety of the trainees. Trainee Smoker. Upon the start of the training session, I was called out by an instructor. As a punishment, you will be doing double the exercise of the rest of the trainees for 6 months. I thought to myself, and shifted my eyes to where Hina was standing still. Ow. Where are you looking at, Trainee Smoker? OS. I've said the wrong word. I meant I froze during my statement, before rubbing the back of my head. Trainee Smoker. The 3 jockeys, along with the skinny dude with long blonde hair, Lloyd, were laughing their asses off from the back. Easy. Way too easy, I thought as I sprinted around the training ground, non-stop, at thrice the speed of any other who were running. It was truly a strange experience to have. Physical improvement is not something that comes this quickly and to this extent. Although I've been conducting thrice the amount of the usual physical exercises as punishment for a whole month, they no longer were capable of bringing me down to exhaustion. Just what the hell is with this body? I thought to myself, but with joy. Improving substantially every day was truly a fun experience to have. And does this mean that if I were to increase the load of exercise even more, I will improve just as much? Becoming strong for the past 3 months was none of my concern. I simply focused on getting every day through, especially after having my daily exercises thrice due to being wrongly accused. But now, the thought of becoming strong brought me to an excitement. I mean, who wouldn't like to get strong? The 4 emperors, the 7 warlords. Although such systems have not been established yet, I know better than anyone else of how dangerous this world is. And in order to become even stronger, I therefore thought, I need to be punished more. Narrowing my eyes as I continued to run, I looked at the back of the wimpy blonde, Lloyd, who was walking in the front with his hands in his pockets. Expressing boredom, he occasionally laughed at the trainees who ended up fainting in the mid-track. Smoker. However, before I could begin, a feminine voice called me out from the back. I groaned in annoyance. Off. Hina, you are thinking of doing something bad again, aren't you? Hina, while breathing heavily due to the ongoing run, shouted from my back. Hina knows. And Smoker fu doesn't care. Without turning back, I lowered my posture, and quickened the movement of my legs, ultimately increasing my speed beyond the point I thought it was possible. Get over here. Ignoring Hina's cry, I stuck my left hand out as I ran, which then slammed onto Lloyd's back. Lloyd's eyes popped out, and his jaw dropped wide open in shock as his head was smacked all of a sudden. His tongue stretched out to an extent where I wondered if it was made out of rubber. I quickly retracted my arm back and continued to run as if nothing happened, but obviously everyone witnessed what just happened. Smoker standing back up with a huge lump at the back of his head, Lloyd screamed. With his arms clenched, he began to run in order to return me the favor, but within 5 seconds of running, he tripped himself and fell on the ground face first. Trainee Smoker. Unable to bear the scene any longer, the instructor called me out. Success, I thought. Within the Loguetown, there lied the Marine base next to its training facility, where Smoker currently dwelled. The commander of this base, starting 3 months ago, was none other than Captain Merlin, who initially believed that Goldie Roger's death would lead this weakest sea to become even easier to manage. However, Roger's final words instead served as the trigger for many to resort to piracy to search for this mysterious treasure named One Piece. Just this month alone, too many civilians in the Loguetown have suffered at the hands of the invading pirates. Merlin massaged his temple to ease his headache, but to no avail. How can one man have such an impact? Is the idea of One Piece really that tempting? Sighing, Merlin slouched in his chair, tired of the endless work. Then, the door into this room was knocked from the outside, earning Merlin's attention. Enter. After Merlin's approval, the door slowly opened, revealing the Marine instructor who seemed quite troubled by his expression. Captain Merlin. The instructor stood strictly and saluted before lowering his arm and waiting for an approval to speak. Motioning hand to tell the instructor to relax, Merlin asked, "What is it?" The instructor sighed and talked. "I am here to nominate 2 students as the candidates to be sent to the headquarters this soon," Merlin said with a genuine surprise. "And who may they be?" "Trainee Smoker and Hina, Captain." The instructor seemed to be troubled. One is causing too much troubles, and the other oppress her peers far too much, asking for nothing but perfection out of them. "They are disrupting the environment here." "Smoker," Merlin muttered with a disbelief. "Are you referring to yes, the boy whom you enlisted, Captain?" "Hina, I am able to understand. She was considered one of the top seeds of this generation from the start, with her having her root in the Grand Line. However, Smoker, what about him is so troubling? Be more specific." The instructor revealed a couple of files from his hands, passing them to Merlin. Merlin looked at them carefully and frowned in a further confusion. 3 boys with outstanding physical prowess among the Marine trainees. Lost. The given punishments have no effect, and the trainee simply adapted too fast. An incredible potential is seen, but his attitudes cannot be corrected with the current instructor's capabilities. There was no need to look further, Merlin thought. Placing the papers down, he immediately stated, "I will write the referral letter to the instructor Zephyr." It was early in the morning, and the sun still hasn't risen yet. I was sleeping soundly with a sleep mask on my eyes, before getting suddenly yanked out of my hard trainee bed. An enemy. I quickly alerted myself and sent a punch out at whoever lifted me up by the back of my shirt, which was effortlessly blocked by a huge hand. Huh! Still half awake, I exclaimed upon sighting the silhouette of a huge man in front of me. You really are aggressive, the huge man sighed. Do you know what title you go by these days? The apostrophe 47th Chaoses of Loguetown, shaking my head to wake myself up. I noticed that this man was none other than Captain Merlin. I squinted my eyes, before looking around my surrounding. I currently was getting carried out of the dorm, while all the other trainees were still asleep. Yeah, it's your favorite adult, Merlin said with a tired expression as we exited the room, slowly closing the door. What's going on? I pointed my finger at the back of my shirt where Merlin gripped on. Am I getting kicked out? Currently, with my mind frozen, that was all that I could think. After a short while, having reached the conclusion that I was getting kicked out of the Marine due to the inflated rumors around me, I began to thrash hard in Merlin's grip, but to no avail. Asterisk, do you want me to become a pirate? Huh, I'm going to murder every piece of asterisk on this planet. If I get kicked out, you hear? I screamed relentlessly. Smoker, I mean me. My grandfather died 3 months ago, and I'm left with no relative. My hometown, from what I've seen from the newspaper, was wreaked havoc by the wave of pirates who have begun to sweep all from the Four Blues into the Grand Line. Simply put, I had no place to go back. Throw me out, and I will curse you for eternity. Even after my death, I will latch onto you as an evil spirit. I'll shut up for 1 second, you mad lad. Merlin's teeth turned sharp as he barked at me comically. Why yes sir, which was effective in shutting my mouth down. Smoker. Just then, I noticed that we were now at the harbor, in front of one moderate-sized marine ship. And before the ship stood Hina and one male marine officer, who were looking at me with a sweat drop. Letting a deep breath in, Merlin placed me down, stood upright in a strict fashion, and saluted at the marine officer, Commodore Bartha. Relax. This marine officer, named Bartha, was notably smaller than Merlin in terms of size. Blonde hair and blue-colored eyes, he was the typical handsome man that many would find themselves attracted, excluding me, of course. So he's that smoker I've been hearing about in this town, eh? Bartha chuckled, before ruffling my hair casually. I gotta say, you would have made a great comedian as well. And just by that statement, I've come to dislike him. Merlin sighed as he looked at me. Listen to your superior's orders, you got that? Captain. I couldn't help but speak in confusion, raising my arms up questioningly. With due respect, what part of my attitude did you find rebellious in particular? I was always an obedient student, wasn't I? You are kidding me, right? Hina muttered from the side, which I ignored. Without stopping, I then asked, besides, where are we going anyway? The headquarter of Marine, located in the Grand Line, which is known as the harshest sea of the world. Bartha answered the question with his hands on his back and a smile. Marineford, the top seed selection for the entry into the Marine Officer Grooming Program. I tilted my head while crossing my arms. But only 3 months passed by, didn't it? Normally, there will be a grand award ceremony at the end of the year for this. But Merlin massaged his temple with a tired expression. You two are too much for us to take care of. I raised my eyebrow. Is that a praise or an insult, Al? My words were then stopped by Hina, who walked up to me and slapped the back of my head. Respect your superiors, smoker. Seriously, tone down your rebellious tendency for once. Oh yeah, not everyone is an emotionless robot like you, Miss Thirdpov. Lower your voice, stand straight, and wait for an order from Commodore Bartha, who will be in charge of us from now on, until our arrival to Marineford. Haha, what a hypocrite. You tell me to lower my voice, yet your voice is so freaking high that I can hear Haruno Sakura in my ears. Haruno Sakura. Bartha, who was watching the sudden feud between Hina and me with amusement, whispered at Merlin. Who's that? Not sure. Merlin looked at Bartha dryly, causing him to cough in embarrassment, before motioning at the marine soldiers who were on the deck. Well, HM, I suppose that we will get going now. Bartha then jumped up at least 15 feet in my eyes, before landing on the deck of the tall ship. Noticing that the ship was now about to leave at any second, Hina and I stopped our verbal battle. Captain Merlin, regardless of how fast things were progressing, in the end, there was no doubt that Merlin has given me lots of help. I had nothing but gratitude for him, and therefore, expressed my thanks while waving my arms. Thank you for all that you've done for me. Hina, on the other hand, saluted him in a strict manner. Trainee Hina of the Loguetown Marine Training Facility, heading out. Merlin, whose expression softened, waved back at us, Good luck, kids. Using the metal ladder that was attached to the side of the ship, Hina and I got aboard it. Without further ado, along with the loud sound of horn, the ship began to sail out away from the Loguetown that I dwelled for 3 months after my transmigration. Although it was sudden, my story has finally finished its prologue. I was afraid of the unknown, yet excited about what I may be able to achieve in the future. Hey, kids, until Bartha spoke to us with a gentle smile, while throwing 2 uniforms at us. Get changed to that uniform. Sir, if you would not mind telling, I asked while opening the neatly folded uniform. What may this be for? It's an official way of telling that you've entered the rank of Marine. And what rank are we currently on? Hina asked. Sure boys. That's a rank, Hina. And I thought at the same time, what was I expecting anyway? I couldn't help but think dryly as I mopped the floor, with the sweats all over my body. I mean, chore boys do chores, and nothing more. Looking at the front, Hina too was mopping the deck just like me. The only difference was that unlike me, she was giving her all just for this. But Bartha's explanations did make sense to me. We weren't here to be doted upon, but to be groomed as the capable warriors. That doesn't mean I like it though, especially when the one responsible for saying that is enjoying a glass of cocktail with sunglasses on his face, while lying on a comfy looking lounge chair. Bartha, who seemed to have noticed my gaze, turned at me, before giving one mocking snort. I was gripping my mop real tight at this point, struggling as hard as possible not to slap the man's head with this dirty mop of mine. Get your mind together, smoker. Hina, who was huffing as she mopped, then said to me, we still got a lot to cover, and Hina can't do this alone. TCH, clicking my tongue as Bartha turned back and began to chat with a woman in a bikini, someone whom I've got no idea where she came from. I turned back to reduce Hina's burden as much as possible. Hey, did you hear? Late at night, while eating a small portion of food hurriedly in a dining room of the ship, Hina and I perked up our ears upon hearing one Marine soldier, who was whispering to his colleague adjacent to him. That Commodore Bartha, I heard that he used to be a male prostitute in the past. Wah! The second one shouted in a shock, but his mouth was instantly covered by the first one who spoke the information. After calming down, he whispered back, and he climbed up all the way here from bottom to top. He's amazing indeed. No, that's not it. The first guy shook his head negatively. Rumor says that one of his regular customers was a Marine officer. He or she. I think it was he. That's not what matters, alright? Hina and I looked at each other with our cheeks puffed up from the food, before focusing back on the conversation. One day, he somehow managed to make that Marine officer customer of his to enlist him as the underling, and built his career. And along with the devil fruit that he got at one point, he managed to come where he is now. He skipped the entirety of the time it takes for a Marine to become an officer, and became what he is now. Are you sure about that? The second Marine retorted, it's always the Commodore Bartha who gets us across the reverse mountain with the devil fruit power of his own. The first guy nodded. Exactly, the devil fruit. Without the devil fruit, how strong is he even? I mean, did you ever see him engaging on a hand-to-hand combat without any use of devil fruit power? True. Now that you talk about it, hey, you too. Then, the conversation between 2 Marine soldiers were interrupted by another Marine who seemed to have an authority over them. Quit mumbling among yourselves, and finish quick. Hina and I jumped up upon the sudden shout, but sighed in relief upon realizing that we weren't the targets of such words. We are about to enter the reverse mountain now, there is no time to waste. The 2 Marines immediately stood up and saluted. Sir, yes sir. With our eyes widened by the sudden news, Hina and I rushed our meals. But seriously, why are there melons in every single meal? Along with such meaningless thoughts. Commodore Bartha, chore boy smoker and chore boy Hina reporting in. After the dinner, Hina and I stood in front of Bartha, whose eyes were headed at the huge red mountain that had the extreme water current flowing against the gravity. Ah, you two are here, I see. Relax. Bartha, who made a flashy grin on top of his good-looking face, said while putting on his justice coat. It's your first time coming across the full magnificence of the reverse mountain, I assume. I nodded with a gulp, yes, indeed. Although I saw the appearance of the reverse mountain in the anime, watching as its entirety was laid right in front of me, brought me nothing but an amazement. Not really. Hina, on the other hand, said stoically, I've been on my grandfather's ship couple of times before. Bartha's grin briefly faltered upon Hina's honest statement, but immediately masking his growing dislike for her, he stated while puffing his chest up and looking at me, anyway, we're about to cross this mountain now. Don't be surprised of what's going to happen a moment later. But Commodore, one nearby Marine officer voiced his opinion worriedly. It's quite harsh out here. Shouldn't we have the kids inside the ship? No, let them watch. Bartha dismissed the suggestion with a snort. When I was at their age, I was already free diving from 5.000 feet above, just for fun. Kids nowadays are too timid, and that needs to change. The loud noises of the waves crashing on the rocky mountain entered my ears. The wild wind, so harsh that I had to clench tightly on the rail, blew all around, causing the ship to sway unstably. There sprang forth a nervousness in me, but I steeled my mind. The nature of the One Piece surely was harsh, and it was something that I never could have imagined happening back in the Earth. But, at the same time, what is this growing sense of excitement? I thought as I gulped again, sail forth, just as the ship began to shoot up by entering the rapid current of the reverse mountain. The wind was so strong that I had to close my mouth. I could barely open my eyes when facing forward, so I turned my head sideways. However, our sail here wasn't smooth. The ship was slowly tilting to the left, and I knew that at this rate, its side was going to crash on the rocks. And now, then Bartha stepped up haughtily. It's time for me to shine. He extended his right hand, to which one Marine soldier hurriedly placed a thick rope on top of. The other end of the rope was connected to the pole of the ship. Then, Bartha leaned down, and his legs coiled up akin to spring, bringing me to a shock. The spring fruit, which is owned by Bellamy in the canon. Boing. I watched as Bartha jumped and placed himself between the rocky mountain and the wall of the ship, HNNNNGGGGGGG, before pushing the ship away from the hard rocks. His face was red, he was huffing hard, and his body was being dangled by the rope that was tied around his wrist. But he did manage it. But right now, this man owns that fruit. And although I don't remember the exact age of Bellamy, one inquiry entered my thought. Does that mean that this man will die soon? I hope it was nothing but my paranoia. However, just what if this man, Bartha, were to die during this sail? Bartha's death may mean much more than his death only. What if the Marines on this ship were to face a sudden adversity and get wiped out? What would happen to us then? Hey, a hand was placed on my shoulder, jolting me awake. Turning, I saw Hina, who held a look of concern. Are you alright? Before I could answer, Bartha landed in front of us and pointed a thumb at himself haughtily. Wasn't I amazing hard just now? Hina and I looked at the man without any expression before answering at the same time, sure. All while this was going on, the ship was now rapidly descending on the other side of the reverse mountain into the Grand Line. Within the dark, stormy weather where the sea wildly thrashed, one Marine ship sailed adamantly, all thanks to many Marine soldiers who hurriedly moved around busily. However, this scene wasn't accessible to Hina and me, who were currently mopping the hallway located below the deck. Currently, there were only two of us here, with no one to eavesdrop. Using this as an opportunity, I opened my mouth and asked to Hina, did you notice it? Hina, whose back was facing me, stopped mopping and turned around to face me. With her eyebrow raised, she said, notice what? Hina confused. Bartha, I said with a certainty in my voice, blonde hair, annoying personality, non-existent leadership, and questionable strength. Who does he remind you of? Blonde annoying weak leader, Hina mumbled while going into a thought. Before her eyes widened in a realization, don't tell me, raising her face up to look at me. Hina said with a disbelief, Bartha was the father whom Lloyd was bragging about, most likely. I nodded with a pale face. After all, Lloyd did say that his father is a Commodore. And this means that if he finds out all those things I've done to Lloyd, the chance is F**************. Hina pursed her lips. Hina will keep it secret, but there is no guarantee that Bartha won't find out. I sighed. I can only hope that we will get to the Marineford before that happens. With the conversation having ended, we went back to our chores. It seemed as if this was going to continue until the evening, until land ho, we heard the cry of a Marine lookout from the above, causing us to perk up in excitement. Come on, let's go check it out, I said giddily, to which Hina responded with a shake of her head. No, Hina didn't finish the chore yet. Wait, to hell with them. Grabbing Hina by an arm, I dragged her up to the deck. When I opened the door and enjoyed the bask of sunlight that greeted us, Commodore Bartha, we saw the numerous Marines saluting at Bartha, who was standing at the edge of the deck. Sneaking on the nearby Marine, who was standing still as the greetings went on, I asked in a whisper, Sir, where are we right now? The Marine smiled as he answered, we're currently on the Marine base G4. Although the starting point of the Grand Line splits into 7 different paths, we used the Eternal Post to bypass those islands that are booming with pirates, and came here right away. Oh, I see. Thank you for the answer. I thanked the Marine, having got the answer that I wanted. Hey, why don't you wait just a little longer though? Then, the Marine pointed at the base ahead of us. It was reported that this base also harbors a troublesome boy like the two of you. Hina immediately stepped up with a half troublesome. Hina believes you meant extraordinary. Yeah, whatever you say. The Marine rolled his eyes, before placing his hand below his chin, and also, I heard that he's 14 years old. Huh! I exclaimed, so he's 2 years older than me. Hina is 4 years younger than him. I froze upon hearing Hina's words. Hang on, I turned and asked Hina with squinted eyes, you're 10. Hina crossed her arms, you got a problem with that, forming a smile on my face. I raised my hand up and ruffled Hina's head. Nope, not at all. Get your hand off of Hina. With a frown, Hina immediately slapped my hand away, causing the Marine and me to chuckle. Hina glared at me. What are you laughing about? Hello, Dara. Before we were suddenly interrupted by one huge boy suddenly appeared next to us. Raising my head up, I was met with shaggy orange hair that reached all the way to his chest, along with the grey metal mask to cover his facial appearance. So you two are Smoker and Hina, right, Dara? I've heard of you from Commodore Barthard just now, Dara. I'm Bastille. Nice to meet you, Dara. Bastille. I certainly recognize that name. It was a name belonging to a vice admiral in the canon, though I couldn't remember at which part he came out. Grinning wide, I raised my hand up and shook hand with Bastille. Just as you heard, I'm Smoker. Nice to meet you as well. And Hina is Hina. Welcome on the board. Hina nodded with her arms still crossed, but didn't shake Bastille's extended hand. Eventually, Bastille retracted his hand and scratched the back of his head in awkwardness. He then turned and asked me, did I do something wrong, Dara? I shrugged and looked at Hina. Why won't you shake hands with him? Hina motioned me to come closer, which I complied. She then leaned on my ear and whispered, he smells. I instantly understood. Turning at Bastille and spoke while pointing a finger at Hina, she said that you smell like a pile of dog crap, ow. Smoker. I was instantly bombarded by the barrage of punches from Hina, causing me to curl up in a ball. Since when did Hina say that he smells like a dog's feces, however? The words got through Bastille already. With a depressive aura around him, he hugged his knees after collapsing on the deck, while muttering, I smell. Hina looked at Bastille in an apologetic manner, before lashing out at me again. Smoker, why did you have to say that? To which I dodged this time around by rolling my body across the ground. Muahaha, oh sir. Smoker needs to be punished. I continued rolling as Hina didn't cease her violent tendencies. Oh soy, oh soy, oh soy. Before my rolling was stopped by the feet of someone. Raising my head up, I was met with the face of Bartha. For a few seconds, we stared at each other awkwardly, before I slowly raised my body back up and went back into the lower level of the ship along with Hina to continue our mopping. Just now, Bartha shook his head while looking at me with a disdain. I was this close to exploding. Sure boys, what are you two doing up here? A stroke of luck it was, especially since he seemed to be in a bad mood for some reason. As we returned back to the hallway, we heard Bartha shouting from the above, you get back down and mop as well, along with the frightened response from Bastille. Why yes sir. And no dinner until you finish the task F*******. What is he? A child? I groaned while reluctantly mopping the floor. Someone, please, kill that guy already. Hina looked so done as she grabbed her mop. Hina might become that someone at this rate. It was another peaceful day here, with Bartha becoming more and more unlikable. May I ask a question? I said with a downcast expression while looking at my food plate to the chef who just distributed me the meal. What is it? I pointed at one section of my plate where there lied 3 slices of melon. Do we have an endless supply of melons? I see it in every single meal. The chef shrugged. What can I do? Melons are Commodore Bartha's favorite. Then came a momentary silence, before the two of us burst out the laughters at the same time. Ha ha ha, nice one there. I can definitely see why he would love them, I said while wigging my eyebrows. Hey, we can't deny the truth, can we? Chef said while dumping more melons on my plate. Here, have some more. I stared at the increased pile of sliced melons, crying on the inside. I'm freaking sick of melon, yes. I am a picky eater, whatever you say. Having finished my meal, I walked up to the deck to gaze at the stars, having managed to finish my work quick. This world lacked entertainment, I had to admit. No games, and no games. Oh, and no Wi-Fi too. My hands were itching hard to play those juicy games, which technically didn't exist here. It was one of the downfalls this world had, but the lack of them also made me healthy. Looking at the stars and peacefully reflecting upon my days surely did help to calm myself down and prepare myself for the next day. I believed that this night was going to be the same as any other, until I saw Hina with 3 adults, who were smoking cheap cigarettes on one side of the deck. Sir, if you mind not telling, why do you smoke? Hina seemed to be asking with genuine curiosity. I saw my grandfather smoking as well, but never got to ask. Does it taste good? The 3 Marines looked at each other before grinning as they turned back at Hina. Well, it does wonders, one of them spoke up before asking, how old are you, girl? I am 10, sir. 10. 8. Old enough, another one shrugged, before taking out another cigarette. Wanna try? This is how we grew up when we were around your age, and before I knew, I was right in front of that Marine. Grabbing the cigarette, I ripped them into two, causing the owner of cigarette to cry out, what do you think you are doing? Cigarettes are bad for your body. They contain strong carcinogens that may induce the development of cancers in your body, and I tell you, exposure to them during the stage of development is especially fatal. I began to sprout out without thinking. And do you know that second-hand smoke is even more carcinogenic than first-hand smoke? Why the hell are you smoking in front of a 10-year-old girl? Are you men children insane? If you're going to smoke, I then stopped, having regained my sense of rationality. In front of me now stood 3 Marines who were visibly displeased. Smoking is bad for health, Hina muttered behind me, going into a deep thought. But I didn't have any time to respond. Hey kid, your name is Smoker if I recall, right? Freaking smoker discourages smoking, what even is this? One of the 3 then growled, and I know that you're 12 mare old enough. Another said while cracking his neck as if getting ready for a brawl. The 3 of them closed in on me, and their faces were filled with unpleasant smiles. But I felt no fear. Are they going to attack me? Honestly speaking, I already was exposed to some degree of fighting. The 3 muscle jockeys back in Loguetown had larger bodies than these 3. Additionally, 2 weeks of stay on this ship helped me learn that most Marines here had notably weaker physiques than Bastille and I did. So why would I be afraid of them? Rational or not, I still would have discouraged Hina from smoking. She was my friend after all. Just 3 hits. 1 from each of us. Then we'll let you go, one of the 3 stated, before throwing his punch at me, and I grabbed it with my drastically smaller sized hand. Smoking makes you weak, I said casually. So don't ever think of smoking, Hina. Hina wasn't aware. Hina will tell this to grandfather as well. Then, I jumped at the man who just attempted to punch me, before slamming my fist down at his nose. The blood sprayed out from the man's nostrils. He let out a horrific scream, before falling down on the deck with a thud, having fainted from 1 punch. What? The other Marine looked at his fallen colleague with shock, before looking back at me. What are you? Don't you dare look down on us because we currently are given the title of chore boys, taking a step forward while shaking my right hand to flick away the blood. I snarled at the remaining 2. While you 3 wasted time smoking at our age, we currently are training and training more in order to become far stronger than what you will ever be capable of. The 2 Marines unconsciously took a step back, intimidated by me. Turning around, I motioned Hina to follow. Then I said for the final time, if I see you smoking in front of us ever again, I was going to make an awesome threat to them. However, sided Bartha, who was coming up to the deck drunk, run Hina, and I immediately ran out of the scene in order to avoid trouble. I mean, there is no way those 3 will spread the news of how they got scared like pussies by 1 kid, right? Simply put, no, they didn't report. Thank goodness. The night passed, and yet another day of doing an endless amount of chores has begun. At this point, I believe that the 3 of us successfully earned Bartha's hate. We were working 15 hours every day, with no pay whatsoever. Is this really how it's supposed to be? Even Bastille, who seemed to be a nice guy, had his expression darkened. Yes, I knew that his expression was darkened, although it was hidden behind the mask. How? Don't ask. Maybe he found out, Hina said while using the broom to get the specks of dust off the corners. Found what? Bastille asks. That, I obliterated his son to a bloody pulp. Sighing, I answer honestly, I practically used him as a punching bag for the final month. You really were a problem kid. Smoker, Bastille commented, to which I simply shrugged. But raising my head up to see the blue sky outside through the small window, I didn't find my current life all so bad. Although the sail in the Grand Line is harsh, with many experienced Marines on board, we were progressing smoothly. Along with my colleagues, whom I have gotten close to, I believe that I finally managed to adjust my mindset to correlate with the logic of this world. Bartha was unlikable. All he did every day was play with some young women. But hey, it wasn't like I was going to see him much once I arrive at the Marineford, right? There was no need to be so angry about it, and simply endure these chores for some more time. And just like that, I became lax. My sense of alertness, all thoughts that I had prior to the entry into the reverse mountain of how Bartha's upcoming death may be connected with this ship's fate, were forgotten. Adapting to the 15 hours of chores on a daily basis, adapting to this environment filled with the weak ones, working extensively without any thought in my mind, and distressing by making meaningless conversations with Hina and Bastille. Before I knew, I've become dull. And perhaps this was the reason why we became so susceptible to enemies pirates sighted. All Marines, Get ready to engage the sudden attack by the pirates. Upon hearing the urgent shout, all Marines began to move rapidly left and right, arming themselves for the upcoming attack. When the three of us ran up to the deck, we were granted the sight of a pirate ship with a size much greater than ours. At the edge of the deck, Bartha stood with his arms crossed. Commodore Bartha, the identified enemies are the recently reported mammoth pirates. The one standing the middle, the Marine captain with glasses, who stood on Bartha's right, gulped as he sighted the incredibly obese man on the pirate ship. That's Mammoth the Fatso wanted with the bounty of 20 million Beely. Do not worry, Bartha said with a serious face, as he kept his posture confident, and bring me the speaker. Immediately gripping the megaphone brought by one quick Marine, Bartha placed it in front of his mouth and spoke at the approaching pirates. You filthy scums of the sea. I will say it just once. With an intimidating expression on his face, Bartha said in a low tone, surrender immediately, or there will only be deaths. However, it seemed to have no effects on the pirates, who simply laughed savagely with their weapons high up in the air. But of course, if this was enough to persuade you, you wouldn't have become the pirates in the first place. Bartha therefore ordered all Marines, fire halt, before shouting in an urgent manner as the pirates all moved away from the center of their ship, revealing numerous civilian hostages, all bruised and injured. Asterisk 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 from the back, I muttered while standing next to Hina and Bastille, knowing that the situation has taken a turn for the worse. I can't see properly. What's going on, Smoker? Bastille asked me. Take off your mask and see for yourself, tall guy. I responded with my eyes locked on the front. Boom. Now, with the Marines unable to do anything but keep their rifles fully loaded and aimed at the pirate ship directly collided its wall with our ship. With the hostages tied around the pole of the pirate ship, the leader of the pirates, the obese man known as Mammoth the Fatso, slowly walked up to us with a dark grin on his face. Greetings to you, my friends. Mammoth opened his arms wide as he spoke in front of countless guns, unfazed by them. If you don't know, I am Mammoth from the West Blue. It's been quite a while since I've got to come across you Marine folks, and I got to say, I am full of delight at the current moment. Bartha stepped up and faced Mammoth directly. Shut your mouth, coward. Upon sighting Bartha's confidence, Hina whispered to me, is a fight going to happen? It's inevitable at the current rate, I replied, calming myself down as much as possible. Running away after sighting hostages is considered something that a Marine should never do. If I am not wrong, Bartha values his reputation above all. He knows very well of what consequences await him if he were to fall back here. I gazed at Bartha seriously, and I believe that he indeed does possess some confidence in himself as well. Is it because of his devil fruit ability? Pointing at the hostages, Bartha demanded, let them go. Now. Mammoth placed his hand below his chin jokingly. How about no? Then you die. As the atmosphere was becoming more and more intense, with Bartha and Mammoth looking at each other, the Marine soldiers kept their orderly positions. On the other hand, the pirates cheered wildly, chugged down their rums, and occasionally placed their weapons against the hostages, as if reminding us of what will happen if we were to begin our attack. But hey, then Mammoth said all of a sudden, we don't really have to fight, you know. Then he pointed his finger all the way back to Hina. I'm willing to make an exchange. In return for the lives of all these people, give me that little girl. What the freaking hell? I immediately stepped in front of Hina and growled, unable to conceal my rage. I mean, think about it. From what I can see, she's a Marine too, right? You save the hostages and become a hero, while she becomes an unfortunate Marine who dies during the fight. We have a pedo here, Bastille said with an equally angry tone. But there is no way that Commodore Bartha will consider that. Bartha seemed to be contemplating, much to the shock of the two of us. You are kidding, I whispered in disbelief. He seemed to have noticed our shocked gazes, as he quickly turned his head away from us and answered, how about no? Instead, hand over those civilians and surrender. My stance won't change, no matter how you try to persuade me. But what happened has already happened. We already witnessed Bartha considering the option, no matter how brief it may have been. I was speechless, and so was Bastille. This was enough for us to lose the last streak of respect we had for this man. Man, I thought we could reach an agreement here. Dang it tilde. Mammoth whined as if he believed Bartha was going to accept it, before all of a sudden, snapping his finger. Bang. Immediately after, a bullet was fired from one gun holding drunk pirate, which pierced through Bartha's exposed right shoulder. Gar. and Bartha immediately reacted with a girly shriek while holding his bleeding shoulder with his trembling left arm, and medic, and just like that, gone was the previously confident man. Bartha was reduced to nothing but a wimpy guy. Even with the spring fruit, this was all he managed to become. Commodore, one Marine soldier remarked with a dumbfounded expression. Watching the leader of this ship crumbling down into a coward was discouraging. After all, EFFF9 Nyum Mammoth burst out a laughter upon sighting Bartha's pitiful state. Before raising his club up, boys, begin the raid, yahoo heha. I was waiting forever for this. Captain Aofsulgi Goyagol, take all consumables, steal all valuables, kill all men, and catch all women. It's time for the feast. Along with Mammoth's inhumane scream, all pirates jumped onto our ship fearlessly, with their eyes showing nothing but craziness. At the same time, Puck, Mammoth brutally slammed his club onto Bartha's head, instantly squishing it into a bloody mess that squirted out the brain matters in a gruesome manner. All Marines, fire in dead Bartha's stead. The Marine captain with glasses, the one who previously told the information about the Mammoth pirates, ordered the soldiers, kill them before they managed to land on us. Bang bang bang, signaling the beginning of the bloody clash in the middle of the sea. And in midst of this crossfire, I saw Mammoth's greedy eyes heading to Hina. However, Hina thankfully wasn't scared. Instead, she angrily pushed me away from her front and made a disgusted frown at Mammoth. Don't you dare treat Hina like a weak person, Smoker. Hina can handle herself, and age means nothing. Well, aren't you a brave one? I said while quickly looking around our surroundings, trying to see what choices we have here. Bastille seemed just as concerned as me. He asked me while touching his mask with his left hand, what should we do, Smoker? With Bartha dead, our side was notably demoralized. The Marines had terrified looks on their faces as Mammoth dragged Bartha's bloody corpse across the Marine ship, slowly walking at us. At this rate, it was only a matter of time before we become wiped out, and all women on the ship will be taken too, as if I will watch that happen. Raising up the mop that I held, I broke it in half before wielding the part without the mopping part. Fight, of course. What else is there to do? This was the battle that we couldn't afford to lose, no matter what. If we want to live here, jumping up in the air to face one pirate who was dropping on top of us. I slammed the sharp end of the broken stick into that pirate's heart before kicking the man away from me while snatching the cutlass in his hands. Tap! I landed back and faced Hina and Bastille. We have to kill all pirates off this ship. Humans tend to fear the unknown. One of the unknown that will never be known to us is nothing other than the death itself, and due to this, humans not only fear losing their lives, but taking the lives of the others as well. However, in the middle of the battlefield, there is no room for the fear of killing others. Our defensive mechanism values our lives over the lives of the others, and in order to protect ourselves, such fear of killing others is shut down, and it's no different for me, I thought, as I drove the cutlass in my hands into the heart of one pirate who was jumping onto me with a mad expression. Marines in this world kill. This isn't some modern world police, and even back in the Earth, they end up killing the severe criminals, whether by mistake, retaliation, or execution. So I steeled myself. With me holding the cutlass and Bastille having took off his metal mask to use it as a weapon, the two of us took a defensive stance against the wave of pirates. Bastille punched the face of one running pirate with his mask-reinforced fist, sending the man flying in the air while spraying the blood all over. At the same time, I noticed that one pirate at some distance away from us had the barrel of his gun pointing at Bastille, who was a huge target. I immediately shouted, Hina, don't shout. Hina's ears hurt, Hina said seriously as, bang, the rifle in her hands, which we acquired from a fallen Marine, fired a shot before the pirate pulled the trigger of his gun, ending his life instantly. Gritting my teeth, I swung the cutlass vertically from top to bottom and overwhelmed one sword-wielding pirate, causing the latter to lose his grip on the weapon. Immediately after, the cutlass that I was holding shattered due to my poor handling. I threw it away and grabbed the airborne sword before stabbing it through the heart of the now vulnerable pirate. I raised my head up instantly while pulling the bloody sword out of the corpse. Fighting in the open is not a good choice. Unfortunately, the Marines were losing by a lot. The Marine captain with glasses currently had his neck clenched tight by Mammoth, who still was holding onto Bartha's corpse. On the other hand, the Marine lieutenant already was reduced to a corpse with multiple holes in his body, and still was being shot by the crazed pirates. One by one, the Marine soldiers who lost their leaders were falling, not knowing what to do without an order given. The select few, who were the females, struggled with their hands tied and surrounded by the pirates who gave them the dirty gazes. The hostages tied on the pirate ship simply looked at this scene with despair, thinking that it was all over. It's only the three of us, biting my lips hard in order to keep myself moving. I shouted at Hina and Bastille, go to the inside of the ship, Fighting out in the open against this number is impossible for us. The two of them, who seemed terrified by this sight, nodded upon my call. With me last, the three of us ran down the staircase and stood at the end of the narrow hallway that we were cleaning just a few hours before. Smoker, Bastille muttered to me with a shaky voice, "They are dead. All of them. Don't think about it," I replied while wiping the sweats off my body. I placed my left hand on my heart while keeping my grip on the cheap sword, trying to slow down the heartbeat. "Are we the only ones left?" Hina asked with the terror lingering in her eyes. She was trying to hide her fear, but to no avail. "Don't think about it." I could only repeat, "Just believe that we are going to survive." The footsteps above us were still loud and rapid. The cries of Marines, gunshots, the fearsome sounds of sharp weapons cutting through a human flesh. It was an experience that I've never had in my life. Rah-ha-ha-ha now, one by one, the pirates were storming down to this hallway where we stood. I stood at the front with Hina right behind me. Bastille stood at the end of the hallway behind the two of us. For him being a huge man without any weapon currently only made him more prone to attacks. In the hallway, long weapon is not ideal, I thought, as the pirates began to run at us into this hallway, before snapping the sword in half by pressing its blade down with my foot. Taking in a deep breath, I stated, "Come." "Ha-ha. What can three kids do anyway?" rushing in. I stabbed the broken sword through the frontmost pirate's heart, before pulling the sword out by kicking him. The stabbed pirate fell on the floor, and the pirates who were following tripped due to the corpse below them. Without a stop, I slammed my left foot hard on the neck of one of the fallen pirates, while stabbing the broken sword through the neck of another. With me momentarily immobilized, another running pirate attempted to slam his giant axe on my head, but it was stopped by the narrow wall. Immediately after, bang, the bullet, fired by Hina, pierced through his head. Using that gap of time to pull the broken sword out and take a step back, I looked back up at the front, where there seemed to be no end to the number of pirates. Simultaneously, boom, boom, from the ceiling right above us. The banging noises could be heard. They were trying to attack us from the above. "Bastille," I shouted at the back, while wildly slashing the broken sword at the horde of pirates at my front. "You found anything useful yet?" Here." Bastille, who was rushing through the rooms and structures behind Hina and me, finally returned with a couple of kitchen knives in his hands, and slided one at my direction. Leaping back, I dodged an axe that was thrown by the frontmost pirate, before stepping my foot over the sliding kitchen knife to stop it, and quickly wielded with my other free hand now, holding two short swords. Boom. Then, the ceiling right above me broke, and two pirates, who were grinning wildly, jumped down at me. Coupled with the third pirate who was running at me front the whole way, the situation was getting worse and worse. "Hina," I cried while dodging the slashes of cutlasses made by the two from the top, before stabbing the broken sword and kitchen knife into each of them. Bang. Upon my call, Hina fired another bullet to the third pirate that I was unable to deal with, leaving the kitchen knife and broken sword still embedded on two now dead pirates. I ran back while opening my palms at Bastille, who placed two more kitchen knives. Upon my motion, Hina and Bastille too began to retreat backward, knowing that we won't be able to hold out in the hallway any longer. Is there any hope here? During a run into the deeper part of the ship, one thought popped up in my mind. How did these three survive in the first place? In the Cannon-S smoker then, Hina and I were forced to stop as Bastille stopped moving, with his back facing us. Looking grimly at the approaching pirates from my back, I peeked the other way to see why Bastille stopped and cited, "It's the end for you, kids." Mammoth the Fatso standing in front of Bastille, along with other pirates behind him as well. We were now surrounded in a narrow hallway in both paths. ECH, already. I struggled to keep my face stoic. There are two ways to enter the intersection of this ship. I thought that it would take some time until all Marines above are dealt with, but it ended much quicker than what I speculated. Did I make a wrong decision? And what a detrimental circumstance we were lied within now. Move up. The deck is packed with tons of pirates. Move down. There are many layers to go through until we manage to reach the sea below even, and in the Grand Line, being lost in the sea means almost a guaranteed death. Smoker, before my transmigration, technically died from this. Hina immediately raised up her rifle and pointed it at Mammoth. But strangely, the pirates didn't react, and laughed in amusement instead, driving us into a confusion. "Shoot it," without any hesitation, I whispered at Hina, and she nodded. Bang! Another bullet was fired from the gun to Mammoth at the point-blank range. However, clang, along with the sound of metal clanging, the bullet was bounced off of Mammoth's obese torso, before crashing into a wall. "Heh, did I not tell you?" Mammoth rubbed his palms together with a shrewd smile. "I am a hard man, having eaten the hard and hardened fruit. With the thought alone, I can harden any section of body, so hard that even the bullets cannot penetrate through." The palms that he rubbed together were now metallic gray in color. Hina's eyes widened in horror. Unable to keep her facade, she dropped the rifle to the floor and fell on her knees. Bastille tightly gripped on the kitchen knives that he was carrying, but his arms shook. He was in no different situation than Hina. Despair. Such thoughts began to corrupt us from the inside, and I wondered if there was anything left that I could do. Surrender. In usual cases, I would have killed you already. But, Mammoth then stated, as if not having even felt Hina's bullet, while holding his right hand out, you two boys seem to hold quite a potential. If you join now, I will allow you to become the No. 2 and No. 3 of my crew. Mammoth didn't mention Hina, and judging by those greedy looks in his eyes, I knew what he was thinking of. Disgusting, that was the thought that entered me. This is the so-called freedom of the pirates. Such a thought was so strong that it even defeated my desire to survive. If living on means giving up my sense of morality and joining this filthy pirate crew, then I'd rather die. And before I knew, I was spitting on Mammoth's face. Why don't you go rot in hell instead, fatso? Mammoth raised his hand up and touched his cheek where I spat upon. The grin on his face instantly died down, replaced by a cold emotion. Then die, kiddo. And the next thing I could perceive was boom, a punch on my abdomen. And that concludes this episode of What If I Transmigrated as Smoker in One Piece. Trained by GARP. If you like this episode and want to see more, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit the naughty bell to be updated on the next part, and share with your friends. Comment your thoughts and predictions down below. Omnisensei signing out.